Scottish roe stalker, our top buckaroo Paul Childerley goes out with Sergio Couto in Aberdeenshire.
I'm on the camera, you're on the rifle, you're guiding, right? Let's sort his priorities out. Yeah, very good, yeah.
Clay busting latest, we have James Marchington's report from the English Open. Cuddly predators, what's the future of the pine marten in the UK? Ben O'Rourke investigates.
They could be all over England. We just aren't looking in the right places, or they're just quietly going about their business.
Can't see the clays for the trees? Sam Green teaches a conjuring trick to help you when you're shooting. And the hunting ban, how's that going? I team up with the former head of the League Against Cruel Sports to find out. Win Peltor hearing protection worth £700. All you have to do is watch our Fieldsports extra show. Find out how in this show. We have news, we have hunting YouTube. It's episode 600 plus this week. We should be passing the 300,000 subscriber mark. So 2 reasons to crack open a beer, sit back and welcome to Fieldsports Britain. It's been a long time coming, but we've finally had the chance to drive north of the border to see our friend Sergio Couto of Sir Coot Wild Harvest.
Mr. Childerley, how much stalking have you done in Scotland?
Very little actually. This is the furthest I've been up stalking in Scotland. I've been up to Solway area for red deer and for wild goats, and so this is super cool really. Something totally different. Different ground, different weather.
Nice to be guided.
Nice to be, yeah, it's not my problem again. It's just brilliant because I just look around and enjoy the scene, and it's great. And yeah, it's just good. Also, it's good to see other people, see how they do it, pick up some tips.
Where is he? There he is. Tips.
And so yeah. Looking forward to it really. Load of peer surgeon.
It was Portugal in January 2020 where we last hunted with him on one of his exciting, raw, wild Monterias. Sergio is Portuguese and lives here in Scotland. We anticipate the next couple of days will be more relaxed. It's roebucks, but with a few surprises along the way.
Because I see you shot quite a few bucks the last couple of weeks. So if that was back home, the bad weather we've had, we'll be shooting something minimal. But you still got quite a few bucks obviously moving. Yeah, they're moving a bit.
The thing, you see, I don't know about where you are, I've never been there, but here we have a lot of situations like this.
Yeah.
A very small woodland in the middle of the field.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't have much to do apart from going out into the field.
Yeah.
It's like, that type of trees is fantastic for cover, but there's no food in it.
They got to come out.
So they have to come out.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you see a deer, that worked for me. If I saw a deer there in a sunny day, he'll be there in a bad day.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
They may not move as much, but they still have to check their mail and do all that things.
Yeah.
Serge has some exceptional ground for roe in this part of Aberdeenshire. He only took a handful last year, so thanks to COVID, the bucks are aplenty. However, the first roe we encounter has some maturing to do.
What is this? For God's sake.
Nature trail.
I'm on the camera, you're on the rifle, you're guiding, right? Let's sort his priorities out. Yeah, very good, yeah. Multimedia event, obviously. So that's a very beautiful little... stop it. Honestly now, come on. Beautiful little road climber.
Yeah, he's a little diddler, he is. And he just curled up there asleep. Serge thought it was a hen pheasant on a nest, that's why he's intrigued to see what it was. Amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
Don't worry, we're plenty of distance away from it, so Mum will be back soon. Yeah, beautiful. We've seen our first roe deer, first Scottish roe deer. That's it. You got any bigger ones?
You can go home.
Got any big ones, yeah.
We leave it be and continue on our search for Paul's first Scottish roebuck.
It's raining.
It's about 8 o'clock in the evening, but at this time of year and this far north, we could be hunting till well after 10. The does start to make an appearance, but as yet, no bucks. Then Paul spots one. With the wind at our backs, it's going to mean a serious detour. The dense, dark plantation is a stalker's corridor, leading us, we hope, straight to our buck.
Got a pair of roe out on the side here. We spotted them from the far side, and we see one of them's a buck. Well, actually spotted as a buck, and we've gone loop right the way around and come back through this thick forestry. So it said that we're going to come out below them, but they're fair way up the top, so that's the heart rate. Just calm down a bit now.
We tread carefully. Then, 90 metres ahead of us is a dark-looking 6-point buck. As we haven't disturbed the other animals, we have time. What a luxury. Then the buck sniffs the air. Both Paul and Sergio clock he's going to take off any moment, and Paul takes the shot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ooh. Yeah, you did, yeah. I had through here.
So we just saw here.
Yeah, you just went that, as soon as you see that, I thought, yeah.
So you're gonna have to take it because here the wind will come.
Swirl it. Yeah.
And you hear it again.
Did too, yeah, that's why I thought. He wasn't quite clear on his, so I tried to shoot him a little bit forward a little bit, but.
He's done, he's just
Yeah.
dropped. Yeah, nice one. It's there very dark, isn't it?
Dark is, yeah, real dark.
Never seen dark.
Yeah, dark.
It's changing to rusted gold kind of, but it's very dark.
Very dark, yeah. Dark antlers as well, very dark antlers. Cool.
So we spotted over there.
Yeah.
With about 3 mile
Loop.
loop.
Snuck through here. Yeah, you come back, yeah.
That's it. Now
Pressure.
we have some peaceful from Davy.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
The ground is covered in roe. It offers them some fine greens.
So we've got 2 more there. One at the back there, one that's come past off the buck we just shot. In the bottom of the ditch, there's watercress, is it?
That's it, the grass, yeah.
Yeah, watercress. Roe deer and watercress sandwiches.
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful, isn't he? First Scottish buck.
Beautiful buck as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much. Super cool. Absolutely chuffed.
Look at the corner, look at the size of the
Yeah.
buck. It's actually,
You can do a lot of scraping as well, isn't he?
yeah, beautiful. Really rusty colour. It actually looks normal here.
Yeah.
Must have been the light or something.
Yeah. Your heads are quite dark, and I suppose it's because of the.
Also rape and all the Sitka spruce.
Yeah. This is a typical head from around here, is it?
Yeah. They keep, like people, they come all in all shape and form.
Yeah.
243, Paul.
243, yeah. Why did I choose it? Because there's quite a lot of pressure on this job, and basically chose the carbon light 243. I've been shooting well with it, and didn't want to make it too difficult for myself. So yeah, that's probably the truth of the matter is. Yeah, it's good. Also, it's a nice lightweight gun. So for this job, it's just great. You just chuck it on your back and don't know it's there.
It's a lovely looking buck, and after a 500-mile drive, it's nice to be rewarded with such a great first outing.
Paul, do roebucks get sort of whiffy like fallow bucks?
You tend to get in the rut. They lose a lot of condition, and personally, I don't think they eat as well. This time of year, they're quite good because they got all the weight on, ready for the rut.
What a start to our trip, and it looks like we're going to be hunting on some interesting terrain. Thanks to Sacco Rifles for kitting out Paul and sponsoring this piece, and if you want to go stalking with Sergio, visit circuitwildharvest.com. Thank you, Paul, Sergio and Sacco. Next up, from Highland fling to Lowland flop. It's David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. The Scottish Government is being accused of doing nothing after sea eagles once again slaughter lambs on Mull. Pictures in the Scottish Farmer newspaper shows a sea eagle taking a lamb. 2019 trials of countermeasures included distraction food and helium balloons, which all failed. Nature Scot, formerly Scottish Natural Heritage, says it will shortly publish an extended action plan for the next 3 years, developed by the National Sea Eagle Stakeholder Panel, which it claims aims to achieve a sustainable coexistence between farming and crofting interests and sea eagles where issues occur. In another photograph in the press this week, the Aberdeen Press and Journal put out a photograph of 5 sea eagles in the same field, part of a group of 16. Animal rebellion has blocked gates at 4 McDonald's distribution centres. It claims the fast food giant is contributing to a climate emergency. Activists block gates at depots in Hemel Hempstead, Basingstoke, Coventry and Manchester with bamboo structures. The cultish animal rights group accused the meat and dairy industry of destroying our planet and demanded McDonald's commit to being fully plant-based by 2025. Police said they were aware of the protest and concerned about the effect it would have on the business. More animal rights extremists have been bragging how they've been destroying other people's property. They demolished high seats on land owned by Norfolk Wildlife Trust. They also posted photos of the toppled towers on the Unoffensive Animal website. 2 male hen harriers have gone missing on the RSPB's Geltsdale Reserve in Cumbria. The bird charity has reported their disappearance to Cumbria Police in an attempt to pin the blame on grouse shooters. In 2016, Geltsdale was taken off Natural England's list of known breeding sites for hen harriers. 2 years later, Natural England found it had the lowest population of moorland birds in the North Pennines, below all the nearby managed grouse moors. Keepers at Whipsnade Zoo shot 2 brown bears when they escaped. The zoo in Dunstable said the animals were euthanized by zookeepers on Friday after using a fallen tree to get out of their neighbouring enclosure. The female bears, named Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, also attacked a boar. The zoo said sleeping darts would have taken too long to take effect and the animals could have caused more damage. A wildlife group in the Peak District is mourning the loss of its lapwings. Video posted online by the Peak District Moorland Group shows a badger tucking into eggs at a monitored nest. The group has been watching the birds for months, brooding through snow, hail and rain showers, only to get their 4 eggs eaten in a few minutes. Pest controllers are warning that the UK could be overrun by edible dormice. The number of the creatures has doubled in the past 10 years, with estimates putting them at around 100,000. A record 145 dormice were found in a house in London, while a collection of classic cars was ruined by the critters chewing through their wires, according to the Daily Mirror. Pest controllers told the Mirror they have culled more than 200 so far this year, more than the total for all of 2020. Thanks to Steve Kearney for the tip. Meanwhile, Australia is suffering from a plague of house mice. But animal rights group PETA has told farmers in Australia not to kill the mice, which are causing havoc by destroying crops costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. PETA told the farmers to leave the animals alone because they're curious animals and just looking for food to survive. Australia's Deputy Premier Michael McCormack lashed out at the comments, calling the group idiots who've never been outside the city. Lawmakers on both sides of the Atlantic are launching ideological attacks on hunting tourism. In the UK, Conservative Sir David Amess MP has put up an early day motion welcoming Boris Johnson's promised ban on trophy imports and calling for prison sentences for people who go deer stalking. Meanwhile, the US state of Connecticut has passed a bill restricting imports and possession of legally hunted species from Africa, which depends on hunting for its future. The anti-hunting bill would ban the import, possession, sale, offer of sale or transport of elephants, lion, leopard, black rhino, white rhino and giraffe. Safari Club International managed to get the bill changed at the last minute to exemptions which it says effectively remove the most adverse effects of the bill, making it largely symbolic. However, it says legal issues may arise in future. SCI argues the bill is superseded by the Endangered Species Act, so is unenforceable. Following attacks by Antilles, French anglers arranged a protest in Paris. The demonstration at the weekend, which attracted French hunters as well, shows their disapproval of attacks on anglers around the French cities of Grenoble, Bordeaux and Montpellier. Scientists are using nuclear technology to help Africa's rhinos. The anti-poaching rhizotope project involves putting radioactive isotopes into rhino horns to make the horns detectable by scanners at seaports and airports. The project, run by several universities, aims to decrease the demand for rhino horn by making them more detectable when crossing international borders. Experts are confident the project will make transporting horn difficult and increase the likelihood of identifying and arresting smugglers. And finally, Channel 4 only made 4 mistakes on their report on turtle doves on Monday. Despite what the report said, the bird is not nearly extinct, or how could Europe shoot 2 million a year, plus the millions more shot in North Africa? The annual spring hunt in Malta is not illegal. Maltese doves do not migrate to the UK, and the reporter could have mentioned that Malta breeds more doves than it shoots. Once again, we have complained to Ofcom. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. Now a word from optics manufacturer Leupold. Leupold's UK distributor Viking Arms kindly put up last week's prize in Fieldsports Extra, a rangefinder priced at £220. This week, Peltor is offering the prize of £700 worth of hearing protection. Find out how to enter the draw to win it in our show Fieldsports Extra, details in the description below. Next up, pesky or perky? Ben O'Rourke investigates the politics of the pine marten.
Okay, we might have a wee bit of a walk. Well, I guess you need the money shot. We're standing underneath it going, yeah, it's up there.
Pine martens are evasive. They evolved to escape foxes and birds of prey, and now, it seems, pine marten researchers. Craig Shuttleworth released 4 in North Wales with radio wave detectable collars, and we're trying to find the only trackable one left.
Once they've been settled and they start to make their territory, form it and mark it with scat and stuff, they begin to do what wild martens have done.
The animal we're looking for was born here at the New Forest Wildlife Park in Southampton. Pine martens have declined in the past century and are the subject of reintroduction programmes across the UK.
So the pine marten reintroduction is part of a large partnership programme. So we work with Forestry England, Woodland Trust, Vincent Wildlife Trust and Forest Research to reintroduce a large group of pine martens, or restore the pine marten population in Gloucestershire, which will in turn kind of expand into the neighbouring counties, finally join up with the expanding and recovering Welsh population to help restore a kind of pine marten population in England which has been missing for almost 100 years.
Translocation is about community. It's about talking to landowners and people who live in the area where you're going to put the animal, but it's also having an idea about what that animal, its significance to people who don't live there, because they may end up with it. So if you release, they breed and spread. Conservationists want them to spread across the landscape, and that's always tricky. But how do you gauge public opinion, especially on species for which a lot of people don't really have a baseline knowledge? So it's very easy to give leading information. When we did our screening document, one of the comments that we got from government scientists was, "Are you sure you actually really want to do it? Because your screening document has quite a lot of negative in it, more than they expected." We were very honest, because our negative was more uncertainty. What would these captive martens do? We were uncertain, so we had to be honest about that.
Conor Macmillan is a self-confessed pine marten addict. There are no helplines for this, only jobs at wildlife parks.
We've got Hamish, our male, and he's roughly about 8 or 9 years old. He was brought in as part of a group of kits that were orphaned by the mum. They were hand raised, and then from that he has then started breeding, I think when he was about 3 or 4 years old, and since then they've had 2 or 3 litters. Each litter has had 3 youngsters, and that's with Rolo, the female, and she again is about 8 or 9 years old, but she was captive born at a same native collection in Wildwood over in Kent. And I think since they've been here, these guys have obviously bred together, had the youngsters, and since the 2019 youngsters, they went back out into the wild.
He's not surprised we're having trouble finding the Snowdonia pine marten based on the behaviour of its mother, who lives here.
With mum's behaviour and mum's attitude, she's not as brazen, she's not as confident as Hamish is, because he's had a lot more sort of human contact in growing up. Because she's been distance away, she naturally has that sort of wilder pine marten behaviour. They love deep woodland and they can disappear 20 metres into it. They can disappear from anywhere in that area, and if they're just disappearing and going and cracking on, we've got no idea. And then if they're coming out at night, we've really got no idea. They could be all over the UK, they could be all over England. We just aren't looking in the right places, or they're just quietly going about their business.
Pine marten reintroduction is unpopular with lovers of all kinds of wildlife, especially red squirrels. But Craig, who led the reintroduction of red squirrels to Anglesey, with air gunners and trappers like him cleaning out the invasive greys, says pine martens are no threat.
If they got into your hen house and decided they were going to work their little magic, they might cause, you're going to lose some hens. But if you left your the pop door open and a fox got in, that would do the same. So it's good husbandry.
When a fox goes in a chicken coop, he ain't got a clue when his next meal's going to be, but all of a sudden he's got 8 running around. What's he going to do? He's going to kill all of them and then be like, right. Anyway, the next day he'll wake up and probably forget he's killed 6 chickens the day before. And these guys, again, they get picked on because they'll go in and they'll do that.
Undoubtedly, whatever they are, if you create a food source, predators will respond. There is a potential that if it's not sensibly balanced, that it can have a negative impact on a whole host of species in a habitat. So you have to almost, when you're introducing species for sporting purposes, you have to be sensible about the level of impact you're having.
And as background to the project, we actually spent some time in Northern Ireland, went to a couple of shooting estates who had quite large numbers of pheasants being released. And I was struck by the fact they had no electric fences on the pens, and even though they had martens present. So I said, well, that's weird. Don't the martens cause you loads of trouble? No. The martens maybe take the occasional pheasant, but it's within that sort of 10% loss that you'd expect anyway for other stuff to take. So they weren't adding anything else. And they felt they weren't doing anything at all. They were pushing the grey squirrels down, which was good if you want timber crops.
European pine martens have a different smell to American pine martens. North American grey squirrels don't have the pine marten smell on their radar. If they smell a North American pine marten, they're out the area. If they smell a European pine marten, they're like, oh, what's that? And by that whack, they're dead because the pine marten snuck up on them, but they don't have that immediate, that's a threat, I need to run. Which again is why these guys are so important.
Pine martens have an advantage over other small furry animals, which makes them a potential threat if their population spirals out of control.
You can't hunt an apple if it's fallen from the tree. You haven't got to hunt berries. You can go and eat it and they're getting more energy from it. But because it only happens in one season or at the end of one season and at the start of the other, they're not going to do it all year round, which means when times are hard in the winter, they will probably then adapt for the easier prey, the more abundant prey, which is probably going to be game birds in that scenario.
As climate has changed, one of the big changes on the west coast here has been the decline in the rabbit population. I think as that's occurred, what we have noticed is that the omnivores are outperforming the carnivores. And probably the most classic one here, if you'd gone out with me here with the spotlight 25 years ago, probably one of the first things we would have seen is wildcat. And one of the things we wouldn't have seen a lot of was pine martens. And what has happened is as the rabbit population has declined, there's no doubt in my mind that the pine marten has outperformed the cat in a number of environments. And we're seeing pine martens now well away from the woodland edge. We see them out on Ben Heant, which is 500 metres above sea level, no woodland cover at all. What is interesting is that they've become much more nocturnal about it, and that's because we've seen them falling as prey to other predators, and the sea eagle isn't adverse to the odd pine marten given the opportunity. But predators by nature will predate on other predators.
At Abernethy in Scotland, pine martens and the RSPB's refusal to get a licence to trap them are reasons the charity is failing to re-establish capercaillies, despite millions of pounds of public and lottery money. Back on the Welsh moors, our pine marten chase doesn't appear futile after all.
He's in here, and luckily I think there's a road inside that wood. You're smiling.
So we could have driven there.
We could have driven there. From a sort of scientific point of view, that's another dot on the map, because I've never found him over there before. This is new. And he's a captive male. He was 3 years old when we got him. Never been out in the wild at all. Very much a home bird when we first released him, hanging around the enclosure, going in the enclosure at night, sleeping there. Slowly weaned himself off of that, started to use drays and pigeon nests up in the trees in the conifer, and now here he is, he's roaming across North Wales. And this is really interesting because he's captive. He never killed anything in his life, never been out. His enclosure would probably be, you'd measure it in meters, square meters. I mean, here he is, he's covering, kilometres now, roaming around on his own, doing his thing. It's quite intriguing, and it shows you the sort of what they call behavioural plasticity, his ability, his adaptability. He's able to do this despite the fact that all those years he never was able to experience it. All he's got to do is breed with the female this year. That's his job. That's his one job, is to breed with her.
Thank you, Ben. Now to the first major sporting outing, well, it feels like for years. James Marchington went to the English Open to see who has been putting in the hours of practice during lockdown and who's been putting their feet up.
We're up on the Marlborough Downs in Wiltshire to find the top sporting clay shooter in England. More than 1,100 shooters are competing over 5 days, with a super final shoot-off between the top 6 on the last day. Among the fancied shooters is Sydney 2000 Olympic gold medalist Richard Faulds, who's won 22 world championships over a career spanning 3 decades. Then there's multiple world and European champion George Digweed, defending English champion Mark Windsor, and 2018 world champion Richard Bunning. Richard Faulds set the pace from the very start. He was the first shooter out on the first day, scoring a terrific 112 out of 120. That's going to take some beating, especially with the weather taking a turn for the worse as the week goes on. High winds and driving rain are making things difficult for the competitors. At times it's a challenge just to stay upright in the mud. Several shooters came close to Richard Faulds' first day score of 112, but no one could match it. As the last day dawned, there were 3 shooters tied in second place with 110. Martin Myers, Jamie Pearce and Julian Freeman. It looked like Faulds would be going into the super final with a clear lead, but then, in one of the last squads to shoot the course, former world champion Richard Bunning equalled Faulds' score, guaranteeing a thrilling head-to-head battle in the super final. The 6 finalists shot each stand in turn, and it quickly became a 2-horse race between the 2 Richards, Faulds and Bunning. Neither was missing much, and they went into the last stand level pegging. Faulds shot first and struggled with the long, tricky targets, dropping 1 complete pair and 2 singles. The door was wide open for Bunning to breeze in and take the title. He just had to hit 4 of his last 8 targets. He hit 1 and missed 1, then missed an entire pair, then another hit and miss. As he called for his final pair, the best he could hope for was to equal Faulds and force another round. But it wasn't to be. The first target slipped away and it was all over. Faulds had the title in the bag.
Cheers.
Bunning knew he'd let the opportunity slip through his fingers.
I never looked, to be fair. I knew it was close on that last stand, and actually, with Richard missing all those on the last stand, I thought it was there, but I missed the first single. Yeah. And if I'd have hit probably the first single, I'd have known where to be, and I didn't. And anyway, I missed the going away one. I probably gave it to him on the last stand, but that's shooting for you. Yeah. Win some, you lose some. Great event. It has been a good week. Yeah, it has. So, yeah, congratulations to Richard, and yeah, we carry on and try again. That's all we can do. But yeah, it's been a good week.
Good.
All in all, good. Thank you.
Faulds was thrilled to take the English Open title again after a gap of 13 years.
Well, I had a sneak peek at the TV just before we shot the last stand, and I think, to be honest, Richard gave it away rather than me winning it on the last stand, because I think he was in a better position than I was going into it after I'd already shot it.
Strong position on that last stand, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But it just goes to show that you never know what's going to happen until the last shot's fired.
Absolutely. It really was right down to the last shot. Yeah, brilliant. Well, let's get inside out of this weather, eh?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank
well
you.
Done.
Congratulations.
Right,
So congratulations to Richard and everyone involved in a great competition. We're looking forward to plenty more exciting clay competitions through the summer. For all the latest news, kit reviews and more, make sure to follow us on Facebook and at fieldsportschannel.tv/claysports.
Thanks, James, for filming that. And if you'd like to see the full version of that film, click on the link in the description below. Now, James also produces many of the films on the Field Tester kit section of our website, fieldsportschannel.tv/fieldtester. And the latest Field Tester show is out too. In Field Tester episode 8, David pushes shotgun barrels to the limit. Using real in-the-field scenarios, we stuff the barrels with soil, sand, cartridge wads, ice water, and one of the most commonly discussed issues, a 20-bore shell accidentally inserted in front of a 12-bore shell. Helping us with the destruction test is Tim Pilbeam, and joining him and David on the Field Tester range is Caddyshack's Wayne Martin, who's also a keen clay shot. They do their best to find out just what it'll take to blow the barrels off some pre-loved and seen better days shotguns. Next, one of the world's top clay shots, FITASC World Champion Sam Green shows how to shoot below you and how to learn to ignore the scenery.
Headed for cover in the woods here, Sam. This looks horrible. Is it horrible?
It's not a very nice target. No, we're up high. Well, not very high, but we're up higher than we're off the ground level. We've got a target running through trees, so we've got trees in between it. So you see it, it goes behind the tree, and it's sort of juddering. Biggest problem would be the trees. People are looking for the target and they're worried about shooting the tree. Basically, you have to, in your head, you have to try and make the trees disappear. They're vanished, okay? So you're using that straight line. Ideal for setting up in here because you've got so many different things you can pick. You've got log piles, we've got all sorts going on. We can actually pick exactly where we're going to shoot the target. You can even mark on one of the trees beforehand where you're going to shoot it as it's coming through. You can mark on one of the trees how high the target is. So you already know exactly your line of where that target's coming through. But just try and imagine these trees are not there. It's a straight line target, run through them. Don't hesitate with the trees, okay? So we're going to have a look at the target. We'll see where Phil thinks he wants to shoot it. Have a look where the hole point's going to be, and then we're going to shoot the target and have a look if he does anything wrong or not. Okay, so when you're ready, if you want to have a look at the target, pick that kill point. Okay, everything's going to happen really quick. So from when we see it to where we want to kill it. So we want everything to be perfect for that start, all right? Okay. Okay, so we'll have a look at it once again. Okay, so what is the target actually doing?
Okay, obviously travelling left to right. It's quartering away. It's a dying target, so therefore, from experience, I know I could end up getting in front of it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, yeah? What are you using for your hole point? Have you marked on a tree exactly the height?
Yeah, okay, so I'm using this broken tree stump here as my hole point, and the height I'm gauging. There seems like a bit of a hole in this pine here, just below the bird box. So that's going to gauge my height. I'm going to come back above the broken stump, pull, bang, pull through. My kill point is where those fallen tree pines are.
Okay, let's shoot the target.
Oh. Oh.
although you're getting that, okay, just try something. Just bring your gun hold down onto the actual top of that stump. Don't hold above it.
Yeah.
Actually hold right on top of that
Get
stump.
it more flat.
Yeah, and then it'll be flat.
Arc.
Yeah, you're following the arc of that target. You're coming round.
Okay.
Cut that angle out, remember?
Oh.
Better.
Felt like I got on that quicker.
You'll get on it quicker because you can see the target quicker.
Oh.
That's better.
Definitely. I can get on it a yard quicker, kill point wise.
Just by dropping it a foot.
Yep.
So by holding the gun up there is high. That's where the target's coming. He's picked the right hold point, but at the point he's shooting it, it's about 2 foot lower than his hold point. So his hold point is basically up here, and the target where we're going to kill it is here. So now he's having to run the gun down instead of actually going to the kill point and just draw the straight line. Although the clay's going to come over the top, but we're bringing a straight line, and then we're on the target exactly where we're going to shoot it. We're going to be already where the target is.
Oh.
Perfect.
Thank you, Sam. Now the first in an occasional series about Tony Blair's hunting ban 17 years on. I go out with the former head of the League Against Cruel Sports, Jim Barrington, and environmental journalist Charlie Pye-Smith to meet people affected by Blair's punitive ban. First, it's a former master of the Devon and Somerset Staghounds, Exmoor farmer, Tom Yandle.
The land the other side of this hedge is managed by the League Against Cruel Sports and has been so managed for 20 odd 30 years. But they don't stock it with anything because they think the deer like it. But the trouble is that the deer actually, they don't really like the grass out there, which is, it's not looked after, it's not grazed tight enough so there's fresh grazing. Whereas we farm this in a normal way, graze it off for sheep, and then let it come up a bit and then graze it off again, or mow it for hay or whatever you do, farmers do. Well, it looks rougher, doesn't it? It doesn't look quite like this, where the bracken is. And the deer know what they like best. They like the digestible short grass that we produce. So we've got a selection of deer next to us, which spend most of their time on our land. If they want to keep deer on the League land, that's fine. But why don't they keep them there? But they don't, because they come to our land. So it's quite irritating. Well, they don't do anything, but the deer live there. No other stock is put there, so the weed isn't cut. And the grass gets longer and longer in the summer, and the deer don't like that sort of grass. In the spring they probably like it, but they'd much rather come on our land here, where there's nice young short grass about that long, where we've just seen it's covered in sheep and whatever.
Tom has brought me, environmental journalist Charlie Pye-Smith, and former head of the League Against Cruel Sports and now animal welfare consultant Jim Barrington, up here to look at the problem. Charlie and Jim are embarking on a year-long project to meet and interview people affected by Tony Blair's hunting ban, which is now 17 years old.
The main thing it's about is about the Hunting Act of 2004. Has it actually had any effect? Has it done what it was supposed to do, which is to improve animal welfare? Nobody's done any research on this. The anecdotal evidence suggests that actually things may be much worse for the fox and the deer, the main two hunted species, than they were before hunting was banned.
I hope we can bring some science in, but we shouldn't belittle the experiences of people who are, if you like, at the coalface, the people who are experiencing what's happening to the fox, what's happening to the deer, what's happened to the hare. So I think that's just as valid in many ways. The point is, of course, the anti-hunting people haven't done anything like this. So one would have thought that if they thought their act was so good, they would have done something, and they haven't done anything like that at all. The act that was put through is entirely their product. No, there's no alteration or blocking or anything like that, which sometimes they use as an excuse for that law. It is entirely their product, and now they're saying it doesn't work. They held it as a great piece of work to begin with. Now it's flawed. It needs to be tightened up. Well, when you're in a hole, stop digging. That's what I would say.
I think the way in which science has been used or misused is crucial to the whole argument. That the antis were saying we've got scientific evidence that hunting prejudices the welfare of the hunted species. Well, actually, the science that was used in the debates before the Act came into force in 2005 was absolutely appalling, and it's been totally discredited. I mean, the main witness, I won't say his name for libel reasons, he trumped up the evidence. And so I think it's very important. I think the other thing which relates to this is so much now is governed by sentimentality rather than hard evidence. And we see that now with the new act that's going to come in to ban the importation of trophies from hunting in Africa and places like that. It's all to do with sentiment. Nothing has been done to show actually this is good for the welfare of the animal.
Tom is one of the people that Tony Blair tried to cancel.
Well, the deer here are an interesting example of what has happened on Exmoor a bit after the Hunting Act, because there's a herd of about between 80 and 100 here, and they're here all the time. If the hunts were able to operate like they used to here, they would break up those herds of deer and move some of them off to different places.
What about the actual welfare of the deer, from the deer's point of view? Has that suffered because of the Act or not?
All over Exmoor, a pack of hounds hunting deer would find the sick or the wounded or the TB deer, because dogs hunting a wild mammal like that naturally seem to manage to single out the ones that are compromised.
Like wolves do.
Like wolves do. And so a pack of hounds, which they used to use when they were hunting on Exmoor, would find the sick ones, whereas they're now only allowed to trail hunt or hunt with for research with 2 hounds only. So 2 hounds aren't going to find any sick deer. They don't seem to.
So in terms of the casualty deer, I mean, I gather from conversations we've had before that that's one of the roles of the hunt, is to find the deer that are sick or wounded. Are you actually finding less now because you can't?
Many less, yes. It's natural really, because 2 hounds going into wood like they are below us, with if there are deer there, 2 hounds are not going to spread out at all in the wood and find other deer. They're just going to go on a line possibly after the one they're actually hunting. So sick deer that aren't found, aren't seen by anybody, aren't going to be found. And it happened quite often. People ring up the hunt and say that we've got a lame hind or something, and they take 2 and they can't find it. It's natural. If you want more dogs to deal with that sort of thing.
Did anyone who was promoting the Hunting Act, did they come down here and talk to you about all these subtle differences and changes that would be brought about? Did you have a chance to explain what could happen?
No, they wouldn't, would they? Their view was only that hunters are cruel and people chasing deer are cruel and anybody else isn't cruel. So they think it's a fait accompli, really. Nobody ever asked me. Well, they wouldn't. I don't think we're ever likely to, quite honestly.
That's what Jim and Charlie are out to find with their project. Things that Tony Blair and the anti-hunting MPs hadn't thought through. I will be joining Jim and Charlie on their tour throughout the year as they meet more people like Tom, and you will be able to see their stories unfold on Fieldsports Britain. Now, from prejudice to the wider and more fun world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, it's Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. Thanks to John Bailey for sending me his latest, a problem with a fox that had gone into a friend's pen and killed 80% of his birds. He takes a clean shot at 120 yards. Jim Hook from Fair Game Pursuits is out after muntjac in this film, which, as usual, combines shooting, cookery and a love of the countryside. The National Gamekeepers Organisation has released videos offering advice to those who want to take their DSC1 deer stalking certificate. Badr Al-Asri in France has raised his game. This is a good pigeon shooting video, and with no French to worry about either. Staying in France, Chasse dans le Sud puts out this film about a driven shoot last season, including this exciting moment when the boar goes straight at him, the cameraman panics, and the lad sets off in hot pursuit. In the Balkans, Wild Serbia is on a roebuck hunt in big arable country with a Zastava M85 full stock in 223. They have to wait until almost dark before they get a chance. Meat Eater is out after Colorado mule deer in the rut in this film. Matt Cook joins Janice Patelis for a stalk that needs a follow-up. And finally, this is fun, Nilo Farms is one of the great duck hunting ranches in the USA and home base for some of the country's best gun dogs, including the legendary King Buck. This is its story. That's it for this week. I have put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the I symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email me the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. That is it for this week. If you haven't done so, please whiz over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv, where you can like us on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course you can pop your email address into our register page and we'll contact you about this show, Fieldsports Britain, all 600 of them out 7 p.m. UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.